All right, welcome back. You're still watching Global Morning on Global Television, and it's time for us to hit our first discourse of the day as we look at national productivity, drivers of it, and factors that slows down industrialization. Talking about drivers and inhibitors of industrialization is what we are focusing on. This is on the backdrop of what played out yesterday in the Federal Capital Territory, where stakeholders in the science and technology sector converged on Abuja, the capital of Nigeria, to discuss ways of using science and technology to drive the country's productivity, rate. And it was very interesting to see different personalities, both state and non-state actors, converge and discuss ways of improving Nigeria's productivity. That is what has inspired today's talking point. And we've got another person, Babafemi Momo, who is an economic expert and an APC stalwart, joining us via Zoom to help us look at this very interesting talking point. Good morning, Babafemi. Nice to have you join us. Femi, are you there? Femi, are you there? Can you hear me? I hope Nicholas, I wish Nicholas can join us in the studio here. Hello, Babafemi, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Babafemi? Okay, Babafemi, I think you should try and we can hear you. Try and resolve your audio so that we can get you loud and clear. Can you unmute your audio? Babafemi, can you unmute your audio so that we can hear you to get your... All right, I think we'll go for a quick break just to allow Babafemi Momo to resolve his audio issues so that we can get him loud and clear as regards what's playing out. Good morning, Babafemi Momo. Can you hear me? All right, let's go for a very quick break. When we return, we'll continue the conversation.
Hello, Anthony. Hello, Anthony. Okay, because my setting is actually okay from here. I don't.
All right, welcome back from that unavoidable break due to some technical issues beyond our control. We've been joined live by Babafemi Momo, who is an economic expert, to help us look at the issue of national productivity and how best to drive it and factors that militate against it. Good morning, Babafemi. Thank you for joining us on Global Morning.
Good morning, Anthony. It's such a pleasure to be with you.
All right, thank you. First of all, I want to say sorry for the mix-up due to some technical issues beyond our control, but glad to finally have you join us on Africa's Finest Breakfast Show. Let's begin our discussion by looking at, we talked about yesterday was very eventful, where stakeholders in the science and technology sector and other spheres of life converged in the FCT to look at how best to improve Nigeria's productivity levels. Let's begin by asking you, in your own terms, what productivity means, defining productivity in terms of national interest.
All right. Thank you very much, Anthony, for that question. To start with, just like you said, I think it's imperative to first of all look at the term productivity. Now, according to Oxford Dictionary, productivity is the state or act of being productive. Another definition actually defines it as the effectiveness of productive effort, especially in industry, which is measured in terms of the rate of output by unit of input. Another definition says it's the rate at which a country makes goods and offers services, usually judged in connection with the number of people and the amount of materials, you know, necessary to actually produce the goods and services, basically. Now, from the private sector perspective, productivity is extremely imperative for business efficiency as this ensures efficient management of resources, both human, financial, and otherwise, in the quest of an organization to ensure increased profitability and an impressive return on investment. Also, from the public sector perspective, product, productivity is also highly essential, to ensure the efficient delivery of goods and services to meet both local and international demand. Now, having said this, it's imperative to state that the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is extremely committed to increase productivity in the public and private sector. For starters, the IMF projected that the economy of Nigeria should grow by 3.30% in the year 2024. And His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has committed to pushing the Nigerian economy to a $1 trillion mark. But to achieve this objective, both the public and private sector must embrace high-level productivity in the discharge of their duties. Yeah, so that's the background.
All right. You made mention of the IMF predicting Nigeria's growth to hit as much as 3 plus percentage. But the same IMF did come out again after that prediction to reduce its previous prediction rate lower than the 3 plus percentage after the various inflation rates that soared and other economic indices. Some public affairs analysts believe that the IMF's programs and policies are inimical to the Nigerian people, especially to the masses, that it seems to focus or favor only the elites. As an economist, is that a good thing or a bad thing, especially if you're looking at the fact that medium-sized businesses are key in driving the economy of any nation?
Well, thank you very much for your observation. To be specific, right, International Monetary Fund basically just give a guide, so to speak, as per expectation, of the GDP of countries around the world, so to speak, be you advanced economy, emerging economy, or an African economy, so to speak. But the onus really lies on the monetary policy manager and the fiscal policy managers, to actually determine what becomes of their growth, which is the reason why we're extremely excited that we have a president like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is committed to even ensuring that, the economy of Nigeria grows beyond the projection of IMF, so to speak. Trust me, yes, there might be challenges with respect to inflation, but you have a CBN that is extremely committed to taming inflation. And of course, once that is tamed, trust me, we will be set for quantum economic growth.
Economic growth. You talked about the drivers. What will you term as the drivers of, this high productivity the country is seeking for? Well, aside science and technology, which lots of the stakeholders yesterday harped on as the main driver, can we truly say we are on the route to high productivity when we do not even have the science and technology know-how or even the power to drive it, the data analysis to also drive these key components of productivity?
All right. I think to be very specific, it's important to emphasize that technology and innovation and also science are critical drivers of productivity. And just like you were there yesterday, this was quite espoused upon, but just for the purpose of this interview, technology plays a critical role, in ensuring productivity of any nation, as it were. Now, technology stands out as one of the critical drivers of productivity, both in the private and public sector. All across the globe, major companies and advanced economies such as the United States of America, even European and NATO countries, and even the Asian tigers have adopted technologies such as artificial intelligence, automation, machine learning, blockchain technology, 5G and 6G, animation, and all of these have redefined the way people work and have also increased the level of productivity. Of course, you also know that post-COVID era across the globe came with the acceptance of online meetings on media platforms such as Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, etc., hence redefining the way people work and boosting productivity globally. But it is obvious, it's indeed an obvious fact, that the public sector must leapfrog her current level of adoption of technology in order to drive productivity. For example, processing of approvals across distinct MDAs of the federal government is still being done manually, in some MDAs, so to speak. This must change, in our quest to make reality the level of productivity desired by Mr. President, right? Now, in the financial service industry where I come from, technology has totally redefined the way services are rendered to customers. For example, prior to the invention of ATM machines, mobile application, and internet banking, banks were densely populated all across the country. This phenomenon has indeed become a thing of the past, hence increasing the productivity of banks and as such proliferating their profits, return on investment, and dividends alike. Having said that, innovation also, it's indeed a critical driver, for productivity. Innovation, which means seeking for innovative ways of doing things, also proliferate productivity when correctly applied. There was a time in this country when it was possible for an individual to operate multiple accounts without the relevant regulatory agencies being able to establish a relationship between those accounts. But with the advent of biometric verification number and the national identification number, ownership of multiple accounts can be established by the relevant regulatory agency. This is indeed innovation. Having said that, there are other drivers of productivity. And of course, one of such is motivation. Now, motivation of employee is also one of the critical factors that drive productivity. Hence, it is imperative for leaders of institutions and distinct MDAs to put in place efficient reward system for their employees. A competitive salaries and wages is a critical factor, in this regard. Now, another critical driver, is pleasant working environment. A pleasant working environment also goes a long way to drive the productivity of an institution. Hence, it is imperative to ensure that toxic culture, are obliterated in any work environment, as this will encourage employees to give, their best.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you.
On this issue, you touched a very interesting area, talking about the working condition of workers. Just barely 48 hours ago, we had the Nigerian Labour Congress and its members picket the national headquarters of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission due to the hike in price of electricity tariff. Would you say the APC government is being fair and sincere in its effort to drive Nigeria's productivity levels when its workers are poorly paid? We're talking about new national living minimum wage, which is yet to be agreed or announced by the federal government. We have a very disturbing hike in tariffs, electricity, the fuel, removal of fuel subsidy, the prices of petrol. And all this, which has made the working conditions of Nigerian workers really difficult and their families. Yet the government says it's working towards improving productivity levels. Is the government being sincere?
Okay, I'll start with the first one with respect to motivation. Of course, no doubt, there's been some level of engagement between the NLC and the government with respect to increasing the minimum wage of workers. No doubt, the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said emphatically that they are committed, to increasing the minimum wage of workers. I think we should wait for them, to actually agree and come up, with what, the right numbers will be. And of course, by the time that comes out, no doubt, I believe, that will indeed go a long way to encourage workers, so to speak, to give their best. That's on the first issue. Now, on the issue of power, yes, of course, working uh, availability of affordable electricity or power supply, no doubt, is also one of the critical drivers of productivity. No doubt, with the availability of affordable electricity or power supply, the productivity of the entire public and private sector will be improved. But
True.
yes, of course, I agree with you, with the recent introduction of Band A, Band B, Band C, and Band D, and the increase in the cost, of power. Yes, it might look to me, to you, as though the Nigerians have to pay more for electricity. But of course, if you listen to what the Minister of Power said, the country at this point in time is looking at making the power sector uh, more attractive to investors. And to do that, no doubt, you need to get the power sector to be in a position where, it can be self-funded, so to speak, because a lot of Gencos at the moment are actually being old. That's the truth of the matter, which goes a long way to speak to the current state of things. So if we are now taking steps to redefine that, and if it means we have to pay more, trust me, it might be painful, but it looks to me as though it's a hard decision that has to be taken, so to speak. And that's what the
But
government
the
has
issue
done.
is that Nigerians are saying even the hike is not just the problem, but the fact that availability of the product, of the power is not even there. So it's like you're paying for what you do not, the service you do not get. Shouldn't the federal government, as a matter of urgency, resolve certain issues, critical issues, before saying, yes, we want to push productivity level to a certain extent? For instance, we've got the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, which has been causing a lot of issues. Government willing to invest 15 trillion naira in that project, whereas we have roads that are very bad across the 36 states and federation, federal roads also, which desire immediate and quick repairs, but the government wouldn't, invest in that. Rather, they invest in programs that seem to favor them because there's going to be allegedly going to be back kicks and awards to some of their cronies. Do you think the corruption index of this administration is making it difficult for productivity level to be achieved?
Well, in that regard, my response will be that let's give the government the benefits of doubt. The Minister of Power has clearly said, that the first step to actually more or less redefining what goes on in the power sector is to make it attractive to investors. When it becomes attractive to investors, the sector will indeed attract substantial investment, be it foreign direct investment or local investment, so to speak. And that will redefine the way service is being offered, both by the GENCO, the TRANSCOs, and the DISCOs, so to speak. And of course, remember again that our transmission lines across the country to a certain level has not been in proper shape before now. Lots of work, I agree with you, still has to be done in that regard to put that to proper shape, so to speak. so that indeed citizens can enjoy value, for money paid, so to speak. Because of course, the essence of paying more will be to enjoy substantial value. I actually agree with you on that. Now, you also mentioned something with respect to energy costs. Now, cheaper energy costs also plays a critical role in boosting the productivity of employees across the entire private and public sector. Hence, the ongoing efforts of the federal government are bringing down energy costs through the refining of crude oil locally must be commended, so to speak. Of course, you are aware that Port Harcourt refinery, it's more or less in the process of becoming operational. By the time that becomes operational, and several other refineries as well. Thanks to Dangote refinery, which to a certain level has started operations already. With all of this happening, no doubt, eventually, by the time we stop to refine crude internationally and we begin to refine locally, the price of energy, no doubt, should come down. Kudos to the foresight of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I would also like to add, in addition, there are other things that I believe can also increase productivity, so to speak, like bringing down the cost of doing business. This will play a critical role in proliferating the profits of organizations and increasing the level of productivity across board. Also, in addition, bringing down inflation rates and mitigating against the hike in prices of commodities will also increase the productivity of organizations, as this will mean that minimal resources organization that with minimal resources, organizations can actually scale more quickly and effectively.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right. Let's look at. You talked about the key importance of the public-private sector in driving Nigeria's productivity rate. What are some of the incentives you think could help smoothing the relationships between the private sector and government in order to drive, this productivity levels to optimum place where it begins to help Nigeria's development and industrialization?
Okay, I've actually covered that in the course of my
Okay.
answering your previous question, but I can expatiate on that more.
Okay.
Of course, just like you said, the public and private sector has to be extremely productive, for us to actually be productive as a country, so to speak. And of course, if you talk about both the public and private sector, you also have businesses, so to speak. Now, for example, for businesses, ensuring availability of funding to support businesses, through organizations such as SMEDAN, Bank of Agri, Bank of Industry, which the government is taking steps to ensure also goes, a long way to actually increase productivity of businesses, so to speak. Because of course, the challenge of most businesses to a certain level is availability of funding. Also, in addition, an efficient exchange rate regime, which also increases the productivity of businesses. Now, in this regard, the current floating of the naira, which subjects the value of naira to market forces and obliterate pressure on the naira due to speculation and arbitrage, also seeks to increase the productivity of businesses. However, we must recall that at some point in this country, sometimes in the year 1967 or in the 70s, a naira was equal to a dollar. Hence, I believe all hands must be on deck to ensure the revaluation of the naira, basically. Now, to do this, I believe we must promote export-oriented initiative, as this will help us earn substantial foreign exchange and will help us reflate the economy and revalue the naira. Thank you.
All right. Let's some very key takeaways from yesterday's gathering was the issue of government at all levels, both at the federal, state, and local government, not being in sync with experts. Like yesterday, one of the key issues was the fact that government officials who who were concerned, even the legislators, the senators who were present, at the point where there was need for the roundtable discourse, the panelists to deliberate on key issues extensively. These key actors were missing. Do you think that's another very, very sour point that has not helped Nigeria's bid to achieve higher productivity when relevant stakeholders are missing from discourse that should benefit them and help them in their policy formulation? All right, I think we've lost Babafemi Momo there. We hope he'll be joining us soon for us to continue our conversation. Babafemi, are you there? All right, I will go for a quick break. When we return from the break, hopefully he'll be joining us for us to finish our conversation on the issue of Nigeria's quest to improve its productivity levels. Stay with us. All right, that's Zuliet there doing what she knows how to do best, Punch Online. Let's look at the issue we've been discussing about Nigeria's quest to increase its productivity level. So let's just take back just to refresh our memories as regards what played out yesterday in the Federal Capital Territory, where stakeholders converged on the Federal Capital Territory to discuss ways of increasing Nigeria's productivity level. Let's get the report as regards that event that played out yesterday while we wait for Babafemi Momo to join us so that we can wrap up our discourse on Nigeria's quest to increase its productivity level. All right,
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Sports News Update. Former Haas Formula One team principal Gotner Sterner is being sued by his ex-employer for alleged trademark infringement. The team's title sponsor Haas Automation filed a lawsuit against Sterner along with the publisher of his 2023 book, 10 Speed Press, earlier this month. Document obtained by Mailsport revealed the company, which is owned by Jenny Haas, lodged a complaint in the Central District of California Court on May 3rd, just a few days after Sterner filed his own lawsuit against Haas Formula LLC over alleged unpaid commissions and unauthorized use of his likeness. Haas Automation claims that in 2023, without permission or consent from Haas Automation, Sterner authored, marketed, promoted, sold, distributed, and profited from a publication titled Surviving to Drive, which unlawfully used and displayed and continues to use and display the Haas Automation trademarks and the Haas Automation trade dress for Sterner's personal financial gain and illicit profits. Pep Guardiola is baffled by the coronation of Manchester City as champions before they head to Tottenham, desperately needing to break a Premier League hoodoo. City will become the first team to win 4 straight top-flight titles if they beat both Spurs and West Ham United over the next 6 days. But Guardiola has lost all 4 league matches at Spurs' new stadium and disputed that winning the title is a foregone conclusion, while also taking a jab at spending of City's competitors, including ailing rivals Manchester United. Guardiola admitted to nerves before going to Spurs, but was left bewildered when Sir Alex Ferguson's phrase "squeaky burn time" was put on him. Meanwhile, City are hoping to sign Vivian Miedema on a free transfer after Arsenal confirmed she would leave the club at the end of the season. The Gunners have declined to extend the forward's contract, and Gareth Taylor's side hope to pull off what would be a huge coup. Fabio Capello has questioned Roberto De Zerbi's status as a top coach and claimed the Brighton manager is only regarded so highly because he is sponsored by Pep Guardiola. De Zerbi has endured a difficult second season at Brighton, with the club 10th in the Premier League table and crashing out of Europe after being trashed by Roma in the Europa League knockout stages. The 44-year-old has refused to commit his long-term future.
All right, that's how much we were able to take on that sporting news outbit there, just to keep you well informed as regards what's playing out for the sports. Thankfully, we resolved the issues, and we've got Babafemi Momo back via Zoom to wrap up the discourse as we look at ways of improving Nigeria's productivity. Babafemi, thank you for rejoining us back.
Thank you very much, Anthony.
All right, so I think what just played out is a perfect example of what we are talking about. Nigeria's how can we achieve higher or better productivity level when our internet services are poor and the basic things we can barely get it done. Can you carry on from there?
All right, so I believe that the time has come for everybody, inclusive of the private sector and the public sector, to embrace, high level of productivity in line with the mandate of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because we are not where we need to be as a nation, so to speak. And in addition, I would like to say that the productivity of a nation, can actually be measured by the Productivity Measurement Index, which is PMI, and the body delegated with the responsibility of measuring this for the nation is the National Productivity Center. But it's unfortunate that they have not even been churning out PMI data on a monthly basis, which is indeed also, a productivity issue. But if we just take a look at GDP of the country, more or less, as one way to also look at productivity, basically, for the GDP of the country in the year 2022, the GDP of the country grew by 2.74%, and in the year 2023, it was 3.10%. This was largely driven by the industrial and the service sector. Now we can actually go ahead and compare that with the GDP of other countries and see how well we are doing, as a country. Basically, for South Africa, their GDP in 2022 grew by 1.91%, and in 2023 it was 0.6%. But of course, there's a country in Africa that should interest you, Democratic Republic of Congo. Their GDP in 2022, grew by as high as 8.9%, and in 2023 it was as high as 7.8%. This was largely driven by a robust mining sector. And you want to ask yourself, mining sector, yes, talking about the mining industry, we have humongous deposit of mineral resources across the length and breadth of the Federation. So we also should be taking quantum advantage of our mineral deposit to actually push up our GDP growth as well. And that will mean increased productivity,
All right.
so to speak.
This Okay, this is going to be my last question as we wrap it up for the want of time, because we have our next guest already waiting on the line. I like this very important point you've raised from our fellow African country to Nigeria. But as an APC stalwart also, I would like to ask you, don't you think we also have to hold your party responsible for the fact that we've not been able to use the very best of our natural resources? Because currently we've been told by the current minister, Dele Alake, that some strong personalities in Nigeria, in Zamfara State specifically, are those who are mining these resources, selling our gold against the norm, and the government of the APC not being bold enough to name names, to shame them, and to stop them. Don't you think the lack of political will and power of this current administration to fight this is also killing our ability to improve our productivity levels?
Okay, to answer that your question, I think it will be unjust to the APC government, to just look at productivity in the mining sector.
But you pointed out that that's one of our key potentials, just like the other African country.
Yes, it's one of our key potentials, but I think what you should look at is the efforts being taken now by the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Under the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, there's a lithium factory, that is coming up right now in Nasarawa State. I'm sure you must have heard of that.
Okay.
And lithium is used in the production of solar panels and batteries and all that,
True.
So to speak. That tells you that the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, supported by the governor of Nasarawa State, is taking steps in that direction. And of course, that is what we also expect in different states of the Federation also, considering the humongous deposit of mineral resources present, in different states of the Federation. I'll take Kogi, for example, where I'm from. We have deposits of limestone, and a Dangote cement is taking quantum advantage in that regard. Dangote is doing very well today, having invested, in more or less taking advantage of the land deposit in Kogi State, so to speak. So yes, there are efforts in that direction, but then it looks as though those efforts to a certain level needs to be accelerated. Thank you.
All right, I want to say thank you very much, Baba Femi Momo. Very engaging talking with you, and we hope in the course of the week we'll get to have you join us more often so that we can tap from your knowledge in terms of in the financial sector and also talking about social development for our great country, Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Anthony. It was nice being with you.
All right, so that's how we're going to call it a wrap on this discourse. Hopefully, we'll be having Baba Femi Momo, who is an APC chieftain, join us maybe somewhere before the end of this week or next week so that we can discuss more about very excellent issues making the rounds in Nigeria. We'll go for a very quick break. When we return from the break, we'll be taking you to Rivers State, where the crisis, we're looking for who's going to end the crisis in Rivers State. Is it going to be the judiciary or the presidency? We've got one man who has the magic wand to help us resolve this riddle. He is the former chief whip of the Anambra State House of Assembly. He's not a person but Honorable Engineer Tony Uche Ezekwelu, who will be helping us look at this very interesting discourse. That will be after this break. Stay with us.